Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 124 of the Actual Fluency Podcast. I am your host, Chris Broholm, as I have been for all of the episodes, I believe. So today I'm joined by Alexander Mynzak, who's a 32-year-old polyglot from Ukraine who speaks 9 languages to various levels. And he also has a PhD in linguistics in the field of lexicology. He's been teaching English and translation studies, and he most recently opened his own language school in his hometown, which is a really interesting way to look at how you can use your languages or your passion for language learning to turn it into an actual full-time job or life, really. I'm always keen to have people on the podcast who have taken that interest or that route, as I think a lot of people listening to this probably have the interest of languages or maybe even talent or achievement, but sometimes lack a little bit of, well, what do I do with it? Now that I speak 5 languages, is there anything that I can use it for? Unfortunately, many of the jobs and careers require you to have a certified level or at least some kind of diploma, which is not unreasonable. You can go to, there are sort of different companies around the world. There's the Goethe Institute for German. You get an institute, there's one for Russian as well. I think it's called something like TKRI or something. I can't remember the name of it. But if you get that certificate, then you can work on it. For me personally, it's difficult to reach those levels because it's a very all-encompassing level. Whereas I think, for instance, my German is quite good at speaking, but it's not a certified level, at least not yet. But anyway, so Alex's way of doing it, I think it's a really clever way. I previously had other people on the podcast talking about how they sort of turned their hobby into a full-time gig. And so I hope you enjoy Alex's story today and I hope you take something from it. And before I jump over to that interview with Alex, I just wanted to take a quick chance to thank the show's sponsor, which is Glossika, and it's Glossika, and they are basically providing audio courses for 50 plus languages, and it works with spaced repetition. There's a lot of different games and tools you can use to play with the content and the levels, and they also use grammar points in every lesson, so you kind of get the feel of the grammar of a language without actually studying any grammar points or rules. So if you want to give Glossika a little attempt, go to tryglossika.com. So that's TRYGLOSSIKA.com, and you can get started for free. And if you like it, it's a monthly subscription. It's not the cheapest in the world, but I think they do provide a lot of value to the user. And if you are learning more than one language, it's an absolute bargain suddenly because you can access all 50 languages. So give it a try and let me know what you think. And otherwise, enjoy this episode with Alexander Mynzak. Alex, welcome to the show. Do you want to start out by giving the people listening just a brief story of how you got into learning so many languages?
Well, first of all, my languages. This is my job. Yeah, I majored in English, and English is not my native tongue. And I majored in English. Then I graduated from the university majoring in English, and then I just went straight into PhD studies. Yeah,
Okay.
I wrote my PhD. It was about lexicology, about vocabulary in English, legal terminology. I mean, the terms you use in legal texts. And after that, I was teaching at university. I was teaching, actually, it was the highest position that you can teach English. I taught English to English major students. Yeah, so not just students who want to learn English, but they're majoring in English and they were majoring in translation. So I pretty much had a lot of experience with English, but I was not a polyglot at that time. I just spoke well. I'm bilingual, Ukrainian and Russian. I spoke English and I could speak some German, yeah. But this is not being a polyglot because I was bilingual. So 4 languages, but it's not actually, in fact, being a polyglot. After that, I was teaching a lot. I like teaching. I tried to use some creative ideas. I also worked as an interpreter for quite a long time. It was like a freelance, a part-time job. And I can't say I liked it, but I did it for the money because conference interpreting brings more money than teaching, but it's more exhausting. Really, it's more exhausting. I really sympathize the translators, the conference interpreters. This is a hard job. It's a stressful job. Yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, in 2014, I decided to go to China. Yeah, I had a good position there, and they invited me. And there the story started, actually, because I went to China. I had to learn Chinese, of course. This is actually one of the aims to go to China, is to learn Chinese. And this is where the fun started, because I think that Chinese, I know there was Vladimir Skulteri from Slovakia. Yeah, I share his opinion. He told that he speaks many languages, but he said like the Chinese was really a nightmare for him, and he has a good idea of saying that Chinese is really a foreign language. So if you learn, or very distant from Chinese, Arabic, or Japanese, these languages are really foreign languages. Yeah, because not they are difficult essentially, but they are so different. Everything is different. You know, the sound is different. The writing system is different. Grammar is different. So for this, so this is where it started, and it was really. I mean, even a rewarding and at the same time disappointing experience, because I was learning Chinese every day for 4 hours. It was 6 months, and I still couldn't speak it. Well, I did writing, I did listening. I tried, then I started like my polyglot project. I start listening to different podcasts. To your podcast, I found you. First, I listened to some minor podcasts, then I found your podcast. And I read articles how to learn other languages. Well, it helped, I think so, because after a while, I just began to speak. So I spent 2 years in China. I could speak Chinese quite well, but the listening comprehension was still poor. It's still poor for the Chinese. I can speak well, but I cannot listen that well, hear what the people says that well. So I went back to Ukraine, and I wanted to go back to university and to go back to my teaching at university. But then they said, "Oh, you were in China. We don't want to, because it was a break." It was complicated. So what I did, then I met an American guy in my city, and he said like, it was an American guy, and he opened a language school in my city, and he invited me. "Oh, you can be a teacher at my school." Then I said, "Really? Why do I have to work for somebody? Why do I have to work for somebody? I speak quite a few languages. I think I'm good at that." So no, I said, okay, I better start my own school. Yeah, I better start my own school. And I went back to my hometown, and it was really a small town. It's like the population of 10,000 people. Yeah, this is where I live, and where I was born, and where I live, where I have an apartment. And I decided to start a school. Yeah, to start my own school, and just to work for myself, not to work for somebody else. Because when I was working in China, I still have to stick to the plan, to do the things that they ask, right? At university, it's the same. I couldn't realize my own ideas, yeah. And what I did, I just rented an office, yeah, and there was this was a good thing for me, because there was no language school in my city. There wasn't, so I didn't have a competition at all. So I just thought, oh, maybe I could have 30 students, and it will be good. Now I have like more than 80. Yeah, okay. I have 80 students, and I could have more, but I don't have the capacity, because I'm the only teacher.
All right.
I run everything. I run the process. I run the management, and yeah, I'm quite busy. But I'm the only person in the school, and I do all the stuff. Yeah. Fantastic. So yeah. Well, I would like to hire somebody, but well, I don't think that somebody could do better than me. Yeah. So because I'm very devoted to my job. This is my business. This is this is my thing. So yeah,
Exactly.
and
Did you always knew you were going to go into? You started with you picked English as a major. Did you always knew you were going to go into a language focused education path, or was there some kind of
yeah, I think so.
deeper
But
meaning?
I wanted to be more like at higher university level. So yeah, I always positioned myself as a teacher, maybe at the same time as an interpreter. But to do the translation, you have to do only translation. I think so
Mhm.
because you want to be a professional. You can't do both, like teaching, then writing academic papers. You can't really, you can't.
Right.
So this was the idea, and this is how I just realized it. So it's a small business. I run it, and what I mean is that there are a lot of language enthusiasts, polyglots, who don't have a job or who don't want to change something in their life. I think having a school is a good opportunity for them just to, I don't know,
Yeah.
to do something because it's good because you're connected still. I like languages. I'm connected with the languages. So
I think that's a great idea, and I know for sure we'll get into a little bit more about the specifics on how to actually design your own program, like what went into that. But before, I just wanted to talk a little bit about your development from. So you're majoring in English, you went into a PhD straight away. Where did you start to get interested in more languages than English, and how did that,
yeah, well, it was in
was that
China. Yeah.
okay?
It was in China because I started learning Chinese. This was the first year, and then I decided to brush up on my German. Yeah, because I didn't speak it for a long time, and then it was the same time I was quite like B1, B2 in Chinese, so I decided to start Spanish. It was my dream to learn Spanish just from scratch. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it was the second year. I had a lot of time in China because in China you have a good job, you don't work long hours, and you have a good pay. So it's quite a good environment to stay there for a polyglot, I guess.
Right.
If you want to learn Chinese, so you have a job, you earn money, and you learn language. Yeah, and I started at the same time. I was learning Chinese. Yeah, and I started Spanish from scratch, and well, I learned two languages simultaneously for like. I learned two languages simultaneously, so it took me 6 months uh, until my first conversation in Spanish with the italki tutor.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it was half an hour. It was a trial. It was a trial session, and it was good. I didn't use English at all, so it was 100% in Spanish. I was struggling, but I felt happy. I know that feeling. I hate like all this. I don't really like the process of learning a language because this is very long. You have to stick at it. But I like this moment when you start to speak the language the first time, even not a very good level. You're still struggling, but the person understands you. You get the feedback. Yeah,
Mhm.
and this is the greatest feeling you can get. Yeah, and it's very rewarding, but it takes a long time to that. So after that, I left China and I went back to Ukraine, and I wanted to pick another language, and I studied the American Sign Language.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it was different language. It was a different language, and I didn't get. The problem with this language, I don't have the people to communicate. I have Chinese friends. I can find a lot of Spanish people, but wait, where do you use SL? And the problem, it was disappointing because the sign language is different in every country. And
Yeah.
Ukraine is different. You go to other European countries, different. Even in small communities, it's all different. So, and you don't have much material. I mean, the same, you have dictionary of signs, and this is all you have. You don't have books, you don't have movies,
No.
so and you don't have people to practice the ASL. So that's why I just stopped. I learned like 500 signs on Memrise course. And this is it. So
Right.
it's good. It was a good experience just to learn the language, how the language is structured. It has the same, it's like when a native speaker speaks fast, right? You can't understand him. So the deaf person can also sign very fast. Yeah, they can sign very fast and make like contractions. One sign goes to the other. And it's also interesting. They also have some type of grammar and the structure, how they use it, how they show tense, how they show the time, future. So yeah, it was a good intro into
Right.
And it's actually, the language is quite neglected. I mean, at the gatherings, I haven't seen many people who have had, or I don't know.
I only know a few. That's it, out of maybe 500 people. So it's definitely not huge. But as you said, it's an interesting experience because it's so different to the other languages that we speak. But at the same time, like you mentioned, it's also very hard to find practical use for. Like, I would love to be able to speak to any deaf person in my community if there were any, but honestly, I haven't met any yet. So that just shows to me that if I were to learn, let's say, ASL, the chances of me actually meeting someone to use it with is very small, unless I sort it out or something. So for me, that's always been a barrier. I'm also really curious about sign language, but I just can't see. It's like learning Welsh or Gaelic or something. It's like the chances of me meeting a speaker is ridiculously small. I mean, and I was just in Wales over the weekend, so I would know. But it's just, for me, it's too rare in a way here where I live anyway.
Oh, yeah. So after that, I just saw a lot of people got interested in Esperanto, and I wished I had learned Esperanto earlier. I heard a lot of people saying this. I wish it was my first. I wish it has been my first foreign language. Yeah, it really serves as a springboard. The problem, I learned Esperanto after Spanish. Yeah, and when I started to speak Esperanto, I spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
Not Esperanto because it was confusing. Now it's getting better the more practice I get. So this was Esperanto I learned because of the community. This is a relatively big and friendly community of Esperanto speakers. By the way, Esperanto is really underestimated at the linguistic branch, because I did a lot of linguistic papers. Nobody spoke about Esperanto. I knew this language. I knew that it existed. Yeah, and no other linguists. They just have some kind of contempt about the Esperanto. The academic linguists. Nobody mentions it, or any other common languages. So I don't know why. They just learn natural languages. Yeah, nobody. I have never seen. I've read like hundreds, if not thousands, of academic papers when I was writing my PhD. No mention of Esperanto. Nobody. Yeah, this is kind of strange.
There were even studies on it at some point. So, I've seen I think 3 studies or something, but those are all from I think they're either 80s or later, a little bit later maybe, about the pedagogical advantages of teaching school kids Esperanto first, and then in this case they were teaching them French. I think there were English students, and the class that had Esperanto before French actually were further ahead in their French, even if they had a year less than
I know this
control group. So with those kind of results, you'd figure that some PhD student somewhere would do more with it, because that's quite significant results, I would say.
Well, but very few people know this. So yeah, people even don't know what this language is. Yeah. So what's that? Yeah. And this was I wish I would. I had learned this. I heard a lot of people this. I think there was even a talk about the gathering that naming like I wish I had learned Esperanto earlier. Yeah, and the guy was talking about his experience. Yeah. What I mean here is how my love for the languages helped me in teaching, because before, so I can say like before being a polyglot, my teaching teaching before being a polyglot and my teaching after being a polyglot. So before being a polyglot, I was when the student, for example, I asked my student like, oh, you have to learn like 20 words or 50 words, and when the student didn't learn those words or was struggling with those words, I said I was a bit of angry, like, how can you learn these words? 20 words, it's so easy. But after being a polyglot, when I was teaching English and I was learning, for example, Chinese or learning Spanish, I became more understanding. Yeah, because when the student, now that I'm giving students like 20 words or learn some vocabulary or do some exercises, I become more understanding. If they say I don't understand it or I can't learn it, so I become more understanding. Yeah, so because I'm also a learner, but I'm not learning English. I'm learning another language, so I can understand you. I know it's hard for you. It's hard for me. Yeah. So there was this change. I mean, methodological change of my teaching techniques. Yeah. So before and after being a polyglot. So one thing, and what happened after like becoming a polyglot is when I was learning languages, I learned a lot about different apps, different resources that can help. Yeah, I never knew about Duolingo, but now I'm using Duolingo, and my students are also using Duolingo. Yeah, like I never heard about spaced repetition software. Yeah, now my first graders, primary school students, they're also using Memrise and they're happy with it. Yeah, so I never knew about gold list method. Now I ask my students also to use gold list method. Yeah, and many such things. For example, I even use like Pomodoro method or time boxing. Yeah, I use the same thing in class. So I give my students a task, right? Like to do this crossword, and I set the timer 10 minutes, and they see the timer. It's like time boxing.
Yeah.
I really like this technique or Pomodoro method or time boxing. It helps me to concentrate, and it helps them. I give them time. Okay, guys, you have to do it. If you don't do it, you're not gonna make it.
Hey guys, just taking a quick break from the episode to talk to you about this show's sponsor, which is Glossika. I'm super excited to have Glossika on board, a really reputable and trusted language course producer. They're producing courses in many languages. I think there are over 50 to choose from at the moment, and you get access to all of them with a single subscription. And if you want to give it a try, you can go to tryglossica.com in one word. And get started for free, see if it's anything for you. What I really like about Glossika is the hands-off approach to the learning. So they give you a certain number of repetitions you need to do every day. And each sentence in those repetitions has some grammar elements that will mean that you slowly understand the language in context. And you build a repertoire of sentences that you can sort of refer to when you get a similar pattern of sentence in the future. So that's really cool, and there's some other language learning tools you can use on Glossika. They have a few different games, a few different ways of revising. That's not just the main reps, but that's by far my favorite feature, that you can just kind of sit back, let the software do the repetition for you, and then do one segment a day. It takes like 15 minutes, maybe half an hour if you want to do a little bit extra, and you're well on your way to rapid progress. So go to tryglossica.com, give it a try, say how much you like them for sponsoring the show, and hopefully they'll come back for the next season.
So then I understood that a key to progressing is listening, is a lot of intensive and extensive listening. So I also encourage my students to listen. Yeah. So this is how my teaching and learning philosophy just merged into one. Yeah. So this is my idea of the show today. That if you are a polyglot and you begin to teach, I think you're far more better teacher than, for example, a monolingual teacher. So we have like monolingual and polylingual teachers, not necessarily like native speakers, but native speakers can also be like polyglots. Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, this is the main idea. So when I started my school, I always have three goals. I have three goals for all my students. So the main goal is to foster the interest of students into learning. Because if you're interested in language, you're gonna learn it. If you're not, you don't have an interest, you cannot find the passion, so not. So what I do, how do I do this? Since I have a lot of children, so I have students first from grade 7, from 7 years old to 20, 25, and even students. Yeah, but the majority is kids. Yeah, kids and teenagers. So what I do, I use a lot of games. Yeah,
Yeah.
I use a lot of activities. I first start the class with a warm up. Yeah, and then I use the games. Yeah, different games, board games. I find activities. I serve the YouTube, serve the internet, and I find some activities. I change the games so they like games. Everybody likes games. Yeah, so I want to foster. I want to foster their interest into this. Then the next goal is to help the students to do a lot of self-study. You have to become to do self-study, and what I do is I give some measurable chunks of language, and I try to track it. For example, again, I always track Duolingo. Duolingo is a great resource for teaching because you have a scoreboard, yeah, and you see the points, yeah.
Yeah.
You have them memorized. You also see the points and how many words you want. So I give them self-study. Okay, this is Duolingo. This is self-study. Again, it's fun. It encourages you to learn. Yeah. And my ultimate goal would be actually to be independent learners. This is very important. So if you can become an independent learner, you're not dependent on the teacher, on your tutor. So you're going to be successful with a language. So these are the three main goals that I try to achieve.
Really cool. How do you differentiate, or I guess initially it must have been hard to become a learner yourself because you come from such an academic background where most of the information is, reading and memorizing in a way. So was there any challenges initially kind of separating the two, and do you still fight with that too? The biggest criticism of language learning in universities today is that they're mostly about reading and understanding, but not
having fun,
and not having fun. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So how do you?
I first was the motto of my school is learn as you play. Yeah, I call it learn as you play. And yeah, when I was teaching, even when I was teaching in university, and I realized that something is wrong with this because they're teaching language as a source, as a block of information, yeah, not as well. They say, okay, this is grammar. You have to learn grammar. These are rules. This is the vocabulary. You have to learn it. You're going to speak it. And then I began to realize there's something wrong with this, and I tried to do something more functional. I was teaching legal translation. Translation for legal tax, yeah. And again, they gave a tag. There was a textbook, and they asked students to cram those tags to learn the vocabulary. And I thought it's not fun. So what I did at university, I came up creatively, and it was a long time ago. I found on YouTube, or I found the films with the court scenes, right? The court, what is happening in the court, the judge, the lawyer, and I showed them in English. And they tried to translate it, yeah, or they tried to listen. They tried to repeat that, yeah, to repeat the words, because this is quite the terminology there, the vocabulary is quite difficult there. So they tried to repeat. Then I gave them the script. Yeah, I found the script online, and I gave them the script. They tried to read the script. Then they tried to translate. Yeah, we did different activities with this video. So even at that time, I realized that it's something wrong. A lot of reading and cramming. I hate cramming.
Yeah.
Nobody told me about spaced repetition software. Nobody suspected about this. So yeah, it's the old way when they taught languages as information, like math, yeah, or like I don't know, like math, really. You have to learn rules. No, this is a different approach. Actually, I think this change happened in China. Well, in China, we had a very big class, like 50 students. They're very big, very huge, 50, 60 students in one class. So I realized that I had to do something different, because what can I do with 50 students? And then I came up with the idea of giving some activities, some games. So trying to speak, to role play. I did a lot of role play. So yeah, this changed gradually. Then I went on YouTube. I read information, the structure of the class, about the communicative method. And gradually, I don't think it happened just overnight. I still in the process of changing my teaching techniques. Yeah. So
needs to be permanently evolving, I guess. Like just
I'm still evolving now. I think like in 5 years, it's going to be different. My teaching style, my class will be different. Yeah.
well, you have more experience. You maybe you build up an archive of materials, games. It'll become easier in that sense, and you can focus on really just improving and developing. So I'm sure you just keep getting better for sure, more effective too. Which is the important thing.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to do. Yeah, so this is a good field to develop, because I'm not in a hurry to hire somebody. I want to do it myself, because trying to improve. Yeah, the disadvantage of this is actually I'm teaching a lot and I don't have time for the languages. Yeah, even if I do, no, I have time. But when I come home, like at 8 or 9. I spoke English the whole day, this language, and then I have to learn to go back to languages. Yeah, and this is the same thing. It's the same information I'm teaching, and then the same information I'm learning. So so this is probably the biggest disadvantage this so far.
But I think it is really a business model that anyone can do, and the cool part. Well, I mean, you obviously need to have one language at least that you're good at. Might not be English; it could be any language, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, the cool thing is you can build into it as well, because you can start out, putting a flyer in your coffee shop. I'll tutor you in whatever language for a smaller amount, and then you can grow your student base. And then when you have 10 students, you can hire your first little room somewhere, or maybe even the coffee shop. If you make a deal with the owner that they'll buy coffee there, and you just get a room in the corner, and eventually you have 80 students like yourself, and you've got your whole week booked with classes and preparation.
Yeah, so this may grow like in a stable business and a good model. Yeah, I never thought about this. Even that you gave a great idea about the coffee shop. Yeah.
Just to start out, this is for the
people. This is for the people, for those just who don't want to rent, because you have to pay a deposit maybe, and you're not really sure. But this is right.
Find a few private students to start with, and eventually borrow the room, and then when you have 20 students, you have money coming in to rent that office or meeting room or whatever you want.
Yeah, and you see, this is the idea with the coffee shop is very new, because nobody did it, and I think the students would learn much better in not in a classroom ordinary classroom, because all these, when the students come to the classroom, the regular classroom, they think, oh, this is again school, we hate school, we don't want to learn this. Yeah, and the coffee shop, it would be fun. Yeah, you don't have the whiteboard, so it's a nice idea.
Yeah, actually, I got it from a former guest on the show. So if people are interested, they can check out that episode as well. And it's about a Canadian polyglot, Keith, who does this as a sort of a full-time thing, and he has gotten a lot of success with that. And it's a lifestyle business, Of course, you're always going to be limited because you're just you and you just have your time, but it's going to be a very enjoyable business to have, and you're in full control, and you're helping people in a very fast way because you're getting instant feedback. They're practicing, and they've got, I think the most important thing, which you also mentioned, is you're bringing real language learner experience to them. So you're not teaching them, you're just teaching them how to learn in a way.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is the part which is missing actually in traditional classroom. They teach you language, but they don't teach you how to learn it itself, how to become an independent learner, what you can do, how to use mnemonics. Nobody taught me mnemonics in university or in school. My life would be much better with the mnemonics. Well, I learned it later, yeah, but my life would be easier with the mnemonics, yeah. And yeah, nobody taught about all the resources, about different methods and techniques that you can try, and resources and approaches. Yeah. So yeah,
It's all there. How do you get people to become independent learners? You show them the methods, you show them the apps.
okay. First of all, I usually, well, I think it's possible only usually with like a bit high school students, maybe, yeah, because teenagers are not too busy with the games that they play, yeah. High school students are becoming independent. For example, learning writing. For example, I asked a student to write something and then to post it on italki, yeah, for the corrections, yeah, for the corrections,
Yep.
yeah. And yeah, they can get this. Or for example, if you want to talk, you download the app Hello Talk, for example,
Yeah.
where you can get access to the other learners. And or for example, I give a student a text, yeah, and then I ask him to the text full of unknown words, very difficult text. And I ask the students, you have to put down 5 unknown words that are very essential to the text, yeah.
Mhm.
And then they do this, and then I show, okay, this is a good word, this is not a good word because it's only used once and you can understand the text without it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like you should rewrite the word, you should copy the word, you should learn the word that is used more often. There's no need to learn to look up every word because it's gonna take time, yeah. And like this, yeah. And step by steps like this, I try to do this. This is not an easy thing. It took me a long time to be an independent learner, yeah. So by doing this.
It's not easy. Do you ever have problems with, you said that you have a lot of young people, your kids in your school. Do you ever have kids, let's say they're a little bit older, maybe young teenagers who are just put there by their parents and who don't want to be there at all?
No, actually not. This is strangely, but not, because what I changed actually, the principle that I at school is way different from traditional classroom. First of all, I only have 6 students in the classroom, 6, 7. Yeah, I don't have physical space for more. Yeah, I don't have enough chairs. Yeah, just have 6 chairs. That's it, 6, 7 chairs. If there is a 7th student, I give that student my chair.
Right.
So yeah, and another thing, I use a lot of gamification of the process, yeah, the learning process. So even with the homework, I always give for the homework the sentences, to write some sentences, yeah. Mm-hmm. And when they, for example, how many sentences, they roll the dice. I have different types of dice. I have like small dice with 6, bigger dice with 12, with 20, 30, 60, some bigger dice.
Right.
And they roll it. For example, you can roll 1, you can roll 12. And you have to do 12 sentences, and they really enjoy it. Like, oh, you have 1, I have 2, you have 3. And if somebody didn't do the homework, yeah, and for example, he rolled a small dice. If that person didn't do the homework, he has to roll bigger dice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have to be. Again, they can get 1, but they get 20 sentences. So they try to do this. And another thing that I changed, I don't use the grades in the classroom. This is because the grades is spoil a lot of things. But then I realized the first year I had no grades, but then the second year I realized that you should have some assessment and grading system. And grades, no, it's not what, because they have grades at school. And what I did is I used I went to give some reward for their work. I wouldn't pay them, of course, yeah. And what I did, I made some stickers. I can show you actually here. So these are the stickers. of Marvel characters, Marvel and DC characters. Yeah. So if they, for example, I manga ranking like levels in the game, like the first level is a Daredevil. Yeah, the first level is a Daredevil. So and you have a big sticker of the Daredevil, and it's written here 10. Yeah, it's a big sticker.
Yeah.
So to get the sticker, you need small ones. Yeah, you need small ones.
I see. Yeah,
small ones, and you stick them. So to get like a Daredevil, you need 10 small. Yeah, to get 10 small. Then we have a next character is Wolverine, and Wolverine you need like 15 small stickers. I mean logos. It's logos of the Daredevil of Wolverine, and I have like a lot of. I have 12. This year I had 12 characters, and they had to collect these. So how do they earn it? For example, for the homework, they get it for the homework. They get it for the task, for the activities in the classroom. So I always make it competitive. Yeah, the competition, and they enjoy it. For example, they work in 2 teams. They have to find for anything. For example, looking up a word in a dictionary. I give them a list of words in dictionary, or checking the spelling with the dictionary, or describing a picture. It's almost for Duolingo. I give them points for stickers for the Duolingo for memorize. And on the board, on my whiteboard, I have their names, like 6 names of the students. And I put magnets, and 1 magnet is 1 sticker. So when the student is doing great in the class, you can end up having like 5 stickers, 5 or 6 stickers.
That's good, yeah.
But I try to give other students, if the student is not very successful, he's still struggling, I still try to encourage him and to give him, right? To give him. Sure. Sometimes I give him secretly, okay, take it, so they will not see it. Because I want him to get something. He came to the class, so they enjoy. This system really worked great. Yeah. For the next year, I'm planning to change. I'm planning to use World of Warcraft theme, or the game over the Warcraft theme, and I'm going to divide the class, make 2 teams. So one group will have 2 teams. So one team will be Alliance, and the other team will be the Horde. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they will have to compete against like two enemies, yeah. And they are going also to work for to gain these stickers with but different, of course, different characters. Yeah,
sure.
So it'll be more interesting. And then I will have a wallpaper on the wall, and seeing all the statistics, who is winning. Yeah, and it will be for the whole school. I have like 15 groups. Yeah. 15 groups, so it'll be the overall ranking on the leaderboard. Yeah, I'm trying to do this year. So
that's
they enjoy it. They enjoy it actually. Even the teenagers, like 13-year-old, they like it. They're fighting for this. Oh, why didn't you give me? I did this, and they, because the grades, at school, this is different, and this is what they're excited about.
Yeah, well, it's psychology, isn't it? Where if you get a grade, let's say for a school year, you're getting a grade based on some potential or arbitrary knowledge level. Whereas if you get a sticker for actually doing something, you're reinforcing that doing, the actual activity, which just helps to build that, because it's a reward system. It's like the what was the experiment? I guess it's like the dogs, Pavlov's dogs. They got a treat every time.
It produces saliva.
Yeah. So every time you give them a sticker, they get more excited about learning. They don't know it, of course, because for them it's just a game. They just keep learning, and they don't really think about the learning itself. And I think that's a really good idea to have the sticker system. I don't think giving people a grade saying, "Oh yeah, this year you've got a 7 out of 10." I mean, that doesn't really do anything. So I think that's something that a lot of people could take away from.
So what I want to come up maybe with another idea. So when they level up, they get a big sticker. I want them just to give a card, and this card will give you some kind of a bonus. For example, teachers help. It will have like teachers help. Yeah, it will have like the card like change places. For example, I don't want to sit to this guy. It has a card like change places. I want to change or double somebody's homework. For example, you can use this card. You have this card. I got this idea from the from another game. I found this about the cards. Yeah, Hearthstone. Blizzard's Hearthstone.
Oh yeah.
I play computer games. So Hearthstone, I use this. They have cards, and they just want to do this using different cards, so they can just compete against each other using those cards to help them in the learning process. Or like the card, no homework. Yeah, you have this card I gave. If the student didn't do the homework, it says I have the card, no homework, and then I have to discard that card. I have to take
Free
away
pass.
that.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like fun.
This will be additional motivation to level up.
Yeah,
because
sure.
get a sticker. Oh, what should I get? But sometimes they have. Oh, so what's the point of this? All this? I get a sticker. So what's the point? So this will be the point. You get a card and you can use it. Some bonus. Yeah.
Yeah. Bonus cards.
So how I came this up? Actually, I used the same system, not the same system, of course. Some reward system when I was in China, and I was really I worked on Chinese like 2-3 hours, but I needed to force me to work more. So what I did, I always keep track of time, how long I learned the language every day. Yeah, this really helps to track the process. Even now, for example, today so far, I spent like 110 minutes on my Polish because I use Pomodoro method. It's 25 minutes. It's very easy to track. Yeah. So what I did in China is that I converted this time into money. Yeah. For example, I want to buy something. For example, I wanted to buy something, some good stuff. Some, I don't know, PlayStation 4, for example, which costed, for example, I don't know, $400, $500. Yeah. And I converted the time that I spent into money. For example, $500. This is 500 hours. So in order to, of course, I have the money, but I don't allow myself to spend the money on, for example, on the game, for example, on PlayStation that I really want to buy. So for this reason, I need to work hard to reach 500 hours. Yeah. And this has actually helped me a lot in China. And I worked like 4 or 5 hours a day on my language, not all the languages. Yeah. So it worked for me. Yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah. And I think people can definitely use that for their own language learning at home. Just put some kind of systems in place. And I think something like the Pomodoro method, definitely something that helps. It's the principle of getting started, just doing a little bit, and then you have a break, you feel a little bit refreshed, come back to it just after the break is over, and suddenly you've spent hours on it, even though it feels like you've only done a little bit, just because the adding up. I think that's really cool. And the principles from the school as well is something that people can definitely use, and I really encourage people who might not know what they want to do. Maybe they want to try it abroad, move abroad a year or so. I think this idea about becoming a tutor to start with and then building it into somewhat of a language school, I think anyone can pull off, and I think it's something that if you're looking for, let's say, a self-made career path, then languages can definitely be a quick gateway to that.
Yeah, sure. And here, when you were, what I mean is learning habits. Your learning habits really resemble your teaching techniques. Yeah. And approaches. Yeah. So no, this is because of me. I'm this type of learner. Maybe if somebody else started the school, they would use a different type because their learning methods and learning habits are different. Yeah. So that person may organize the school in a different way, and you'll have, for example, some people using SML, for example. I don't use it because I never tried it, but they like SML, so they can use SML in their classroom. It's still possible to use. I mean, the dialects and all the system. Yeah. So this is the way. And same thing. We traditionally have like three teaching methods. So we have grammar translation method, when you read and translate, and you have structural approach to teaching a language. When you learn the structure, you learn the grammar, how the grammar is structured, and then you have the communicative. This is the new one, very popular now, when you focus not on the structure but on the function. So I try to use actually all these three methods when I teach structure. I use sometimes I try not to use grammar translation method
Hmm.
But sometimes I have to because it's easier to for example, for example, I say in Ukrainian, this is like this. Yeah,
Hmm.
explaining, but this is only when I'm explaining. I don't encourage the students to translate everything that they read or that they listen. You have to first understand it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that I discovered, I tried to link, for example, the grammar of the vocabulary. For example, when I teach present simple, I also teach the vocabulary for present simple. This is very few textbooks do. For example, yeah, you learn present simple, the structure. This is the structure, yeah, and then I give them like the vocabulary. So what is the vocabulary for present simple? This is the daily routine, first of all. Yeah, the daily routine. I get up, I go to bed, I brush my teeth, I change clothes. So then we learn present simple, we learn the vocabulary, and I ask the students to link it with this grammar and vocabulary. This is very few people. I mean, the very few textbooks do give this. They do actually, but they don't focus mainly on it.
Mm.
Yeah. So, or past simple, we talk about, for example, maybe history, yeah, and what happened in this year. Yeah, and sometimes when I teach past simple, I ask the students like to write the dates, very important historic dates, yeah, and then make true, false. They read the three facts, two truth and a lie. They read two true facts and one is a lie, and then the students have to guess which one is true, which one is a lie. Yeah. No.
It's good. Yeah, I really like that, and I think what you said before is also really important to reiterate. It's just there's no. I think you would agree with me. There's no like perfect method. There's no one way to do anything. It's all about who your target audience is, what age are they, what kind of learners are they, what kind of learner are you, and then you need to get inspiration from everything. And that's what I'm trying to do with the podcast here, is to not try to find the answer to language learning, but maybe bring in inspiration from all sorts of people like yourself. You've been extremely helpful and knowledgeable today to share what works for you and what works for your students. But I might have had 100 other people come in with 100 different methods and 100 different perspectives. So I think it's really cool that people can get a lot of input, a lot of ideas, and then hopefully they can sort of build their own method and become successful that way.
Well, yeah, this is like I completely agree with you. This is when I began to listen to your podcast, I was looking for a perfect method. I say, okay, maybe in this method, maybe in this episode, or maybe this guy is right. No, this guy is not right. The other guy is right.
Yeah.
Then I realized, no, come on, it's not that way that you can find it. It works for those people. It doesn't really work for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is right. Yeah. So what I find useful for me, I always change my methods when I learn a foreign language. For example, for Polish, I began a gold list method. Yeah. I never used it for Chinese, for example. Yeah. So then I'm trying to use Michelle Thomas again. I never used it. Yeah. And every day I try, because I get bored with the routine every day.
Yeah.
For example, I cannot do, for example, read text or do listening the whole day, or do the. I begin the day with Duolingo, then I do Closemaster, I can do Glossica, then I can go to italki and write, and this is all Pomodoro method. 25 minutes, I do this, 25 minutes, this, and this. So I get sources, information from different, yeah, and I try to develop to work on all of them. The same as in class. I have an hour class. We usually have 2 hours. All the groups, all the 6 students, they come to my class twice a week for 1 hour. It's not a lot. 1 hour in 2 hours per week. It's not a lot, really. And because I cannot accept all. Yeah, I have 80 students, and I can't. I work 6 hours a day. I have six classes a day. So what I do, I have 50 or 60 minutes in a class. So what I do, I try to do a lot of, at least 4 activities. Yeah, some warm-up activity, then the main activity, then maybe some game, then explain the homework, then explain some tiny bits of grammar, maybe watch a video and just listening comprehension. Yeah, so I don't think that those students will be interested in like doing one thing for 1 hour.
Right.
Reading or translation 1 hour. Yeah, and
They'll lose concentration no matter how old they are, to be
well,
honest.
yeah. Well, I do. I
I do
get
it as
bored.
well. Yeah.
I get bored if I do it more than 20 minutes reading or listening. I
Me
just
too.
become disconnected. So the same with the students. I try to make some verification, to make a lot of different things in the classroom, so they concentrate it all the time. Yeah. So for example, if they get bored, sometimes I always write the lesson plan, but sometimes I have to change it because see, something is going wrong in the class. Okay, they're not, so I need to I go to the video, I find quickly the video on the YouTube. Okay, sure. Okay, come on, guys, let's watch this. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
I remembered some words. I remembered some word, and then there was a situation on YouTube from some sitcom, for example, from the Big Bang Theory. I say, okay, do you know Big Bang Theory? Okay, this situation was in Big Bang Theory, and I showed them the video from YouTube, and they, oh, okay, they changed it. And I have to change the class, the lesson plan during the class. Yeah. So.
You're
Yeah,
just flexible and dynamic.
sometimes I just invent the games. Okay, okay, let's do. Maybe we should do it like this. Okay, let's do this. Invent the game because always try to make the learning process competitive. Yeah, they got interested in this, and the students try to do something to, for example, teams. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes teams. Sometimes I do the other thing. I don't do team. I do teamwork. Like say, okay, group 6 people. I give you one crossword. It's very difficult. You have to do it. If you do it, you all get the stickers.
Oh, yeah, you work together.
Nobody, no. So you can do everything. I say, okay, you use Google Translate, you use the dictionary, whatever. But then they don't they can't do it. I say, okay, you look up this word, you look up this word, and you write. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have because they don't know how to work in team. Yeah, they don't work. The traditional school doesn't teach them. So. I say to them, okay, you divide the work. You do this, because if everybody in the class is going to do the same thing, yeah, one thing, so you're not going to make the time. I give them the timer, yeah. So I try to develop the teamwork, not only like one man against man other man, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Student versus student versus student.
You're getting more skills into the classroom as well, not just language skills, and I think that's also pretty good. It seems like the school systems of today are not really doing a really good job, so we need people like you to keep innovating and keep the levels high. But I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast. The time has run out. We had, and just again, thank you for sharing your tips and tricks. Like I said before, I really hope that somebody will, copy what you've done with their own inputs in their own country, maybe their own hometown, and make a big difference. Because I know how valuable, particularly English is today, to learn as a foreign language, as a first foreign.
Yeah, well, sure, not. I'm also teaching. I just forgot to mention. I also teach Chinese, but only individual class, not in group. I'm not ready for the group and I don't encourage the students actually to learn Chinese. I say, okay, first learn English, then it depends. You want to learn Chinese? It's a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah, so that's a proper hard language. I can imagine.
No. I just started this experiment with that one student, and still he's getting better. I lead him. So because I know my mistakes that I made when I was learning Chinese. Yeah. So the tones, for example, I asked him to learn the tones, to do listening, to do repeating. I didn't do this when I started Chinese, and don't make my mistakes. Yeah. So it's so what I mean by today's talk is the other people, they don't need to follow my model. It's not perfect. It's perfect for me. Well, it's because I don't have competition, for example. Everybody knows me, in my city. It's a small city. But for bigger cities, it can be different. They have to compete with bigger schools. It may be more difficult thing to do. Sure. Yeah. And I just encourage to do if somebody is interested in speaking languages, and would like to make a career of it, I just give them all the inspiration. You can do it. If you're really into it, you're a professional, the people will know you. They will know you. They will follow you, and they will like to learn the language with you because you're successful, and they will also consider you successful. So this is the mean. Yeah.
That could lead to many other new exciting opportunities in the future. But if people wanted to reach out, maybe they have a question for you or want to thank you for today's episode, is there any place online that they can reach you?
Well, this was on Facebook. I'm very active now on Facebook. Actually, I post I have my Polish challenge, 40-day challenge in Polish to learn Polish in 40 days. And they can address me there. I don't have a page because I would like to have a page or some YouTube channel, but I don't have time for it. I have time, but I don't have energy. And I would think, oh, maybe I should have a blog. But I said, oh no, I better spend more time on learning a lot of languages because it takes time. Yeah, I run the school and I have to still brush up on my languages, so I just don't have time. So I'm on Facebook. I'm always, everybody's welcome. I can help with with what I can.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Alexander, and have a great evening. I know it's a little bit later there, and I hope to see you around the world in a next Polyglot event, possibly.
Yeah, sure. Maybe. I'll be there with more languages, I hope. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case, definitely. So I'll see you around. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right.